Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and this is, I guess, lucky number 13 installment of On the Tube. And this is an interesting week because there's some big shows that I'm going to be talking about that are newer shows, and then a couple that I got to catch up on as well. And we're going to be getting started with the HBO show Run, which I had some fun with, honestly, and Donald Gleason is really good in it, and the lead actress is very good in it. Phoebe Waller-Bridge pops up as a smaller character who's a lot of fun. It's fast, it's zippy. When it's at its best, it can be really funny. When it's not at its best, it can be a little unlikable, but it's only like, 7 episodes, and it's about this woman who goes on the run with her ex, and finding out why it all happened, how it all came about is part of the journey of the first season of this show. And also seeing them reconnect is the big part of the show. And at times it's like, I didn't super care about their relationship and then building it back up, but the actors had enough charisma on their own for me to be at least interested and have some fun with it. It's not the best show out there, but at a zippy 7 episodes and a quick pace, I think it has enough where it's worth checking out. There's some fun interactions, there's some interesting subplots, especially between this one police officer and Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character. They have some interesting chemistry. But in general, I think Run's a show that it's like, hey, you just want to have a little bit of fun, and it's not a huge investment in terms of time. There you go, check it out. And then we have the second season of Homecoming, which I absolutely love the first season of Homecoming with Julia Roberts, Stephen James, Bobby Cannavale, Shea Wingham. And this mystery that was unraveled throughout this first season about what's going on in terms of this experiment being done on soldiers, this second season first opens up with Janelle Monáe waking up in a canoe, not knowing who she is, and the first episode or two really are a lot of tension and mystery, and yet again, this is like only 7 episode season as well. You're sitting on the edge of your seat wondering, where's this going? And also how the second season grows the story of the first one and gives it a bigger context is interesting as you kind of fold in Chris Cooper's character, who runs this corporation that were doing all these experiments on these soldiers. And the mystery of this season is, who is Janelle Monáe? Why is she involved here? It brings back Stephen James, and he does a great job as well. And this show is very intriguing. It plays with nonlinear storytelling, and it really unravels things. It's a little bit different in terms of presentation from the first season because they went with different aspect ratios and a grainier look to it in the first season. This one, you can tell the framing and the shots are done very similar, and they hold on to longer shots in a very similar way, but they change the aspect ratio. They don't really lean into that graininess either, but it still feels like the same show, and it's really interesting because it digs deeper into like corporate and military criticism and themes of that kind of nature, and it unravels a pretty interesting mystery, and I got really involved in it, and I really enjoyed Homecoming Season 2. So if you haven't checked out the first season either, go check it out on Amazon. It's a great show. And then next we're going to be talking about This Is Us. So I watched the first season of This Is Us, and I really enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I was going to. I thought this was just going to be like a melodramatic, Lifetime kind of show. It has its moments like that, but overall I feel like the show is pretty earnest and really does hit emotionally in terms of the story that it's telling. And it's very interesting that this show is told in so many different time periods and they set up a lot of mystery to this show that I think is really intriguing and unexpected. And I appreciated that. And it takes like 2 episodes for you to really figure out exactly what's going on and how this is all connected. Because at first you're just like, these are a bunch of random people. Do they like all wander into each other's lives? But then you start to realize they have been their whole lives, because it's like this is a family. And there's some great actors in the show, and like Sterling K. Brown is amazing, and Milo Ventimiglia, he's great. It's interesting Mandy Moore's in this, but she does a really good job. And probably my favorite character is William, who turns out to be the biological father of Sterling K. Brown's character. He's very insightful. He adds more depth and a little bit more of a deeper emotional connection. And like this show, there's a lot of emotional things that are going to be going on. Roller coaster rides, like sometimes it gets a little soap opera-y with how much we're taking on emotional rides. I love Toby, the overweight boyfriend of the daughter in this show, and he's hilarious. But overall, I think this show definitely was worth my time, and I look forward to seeing where it goes. I've, at least from some people, have given me feedback that they don't like where all the characters go moving forward. But for now, I'm interested in their stories, and I feel like they all went somewhere. Whether it was finding out more about them over time or where their lives take them in this first season of the show. But I'm hooked. I really enjoy it, and I look forward to seeing where all these characters go moving forward. Going to be talking about Defending Jacob on Apple TV Plus, and this is a very intriguing mini-series based off of this book about a young man who is charged with murdering his classmate, his bully. And Chris Evans, not playing Captain America, plays his father, who's a district attorney, and Chris Evans was great. I really, really enjoyed what he did in this show. And like even like small characters like J.K. Simmons pops up in this show as his estranged father and is great. Because it's J.K. Simmons, he does a great job. But overall, the acting is really great in the show. They really come to play, and they really sell everything that's important in the show. But it gets a little long in the tooth. It's like 9 episodes, this story, based off of this one book. And it takes its time getting some places. And the last episode feels a little odd in terms of where the story goes and how long it takes for the story to go, because this last episode is the longest episode. It's over an hour. And it's like, okay, this is a little weird, but as I was pretty hooked into the mysteries, like really figuring out, did this kid do it? And you get sent on a roller coaster ride of different pieces of evidence and different occurrences that happen. It's just like, this is not the kind of show that's going to give you definitive answers. And I think I can appreciate the ambition of a show not dealing directly with something that big in it. But in the end, I know a lot of people are going to feel unresolved because they don't know what happened. And I can see that, and that's perfectly understandable. So I feel like this show can have a big divisive kind of split in terms of how people feel about how the show wraps up. It does lean into making you think what happened, but it doesn't explicitly give you that answer. But I was interested enough, and I think this is a big win for Apple TV Plus because it was an intriguing show. It was well shot. It has a lot of tension, and Chris Evans gives a great performance, which I enjoy seeing him not just doing Captain America. Then we have True Detective Season 1. So this is a lauded show. A lot of people love that first season of True Detective, and the next couple ones don't have as much praise, but I remember when this came out at the time and everyone being like, Matthew McConaughey though. And he gives a fantastic performance in this show. One of his best performances, and I think it's one of Woody Harrelson's best performances as well. One of the strangest things about this is how many times you see Woody Harrelson have sex with different women. But that's besides the point. But Matthew McConaughey plays a very different character who's has this existential pessimism about everything, and how that creates a lot of tension with Woody Harrelson's character and just people in general. And he spouts this philosophical. It's like everybody is just gonna die, and what's this all for? And just like all those different kinds of things, the show is layered in different time periods over the course of like 17 years. And you see how their two characters over time are affected by this long-term case that they're involved in. These strange murders and disappearances. And it's very interesting, and a friend of mine had to shed a light on where a lot of the influences are that this comes from. And it's creepy, it's unnerving, and specifically talking about the case and where this builds up to, the climax of this case is terrifying, it's haunting, and there's so much tension in that scene in the season finale of this show where they finally confront and are hunting this serial killer. And it's like Cary Fukunaga does an amazing job directing this show, and he brings an atmosphere. The whole show feels like it's so well shot, but there always seems to be some form of just dread under the surface throughout the whole entire show, and that gives such an interesting perspective on the events of the show in terms of the personal lives of these detectives and also the case they're working on, and builds so much tension. And it's so well shot, there's long, interesting, and engrossing takes, and this feels like a film. This feels cinematic, and I can tell why this show grabbed so many people's attention when it first came out. And you see this deep dive into these complex characters' lives, and I just felt engrossed in it. I absolutely love True Detective Season 1. If you, like myself, are behind the 8 ball on this, go check it out. I'm interested in seeing the next 2 seasons, but I knew going in this was going to be the season to watch. Then we have Undone on Amazon, and this is from Raphael Bob Waxberg, who made BoJack Horseman. And I wasn't sure what to expect from this Scanner Darkly kind of like motion capture animation. And obviously BoJack is a very specific kind of tone. And like Tuca and Birdie has a different tone to it, but it very much feels like the same creator made it. This, obviously, and you're thinking like, why did they just animate over these people's faces? Then you get into the story of dealing with time travel, mental illness, and it really allows for the story to be told in an immersive and an intriguing way. And because it's very abstract at times, you're bouncing around between scenes and interactions with characters. And Rosa Salazar gives a fantastic performance, the center to the show. And Bob Odenkirk is great as her father, who she's trying to solve his death. What happened to her father? And supposedly this sent her on this path. And you find out dark things about this. Dark twists and turns in his story and her story and her family in general. And the whole show is from her perspective on things, and it's very interesting as the layers pull back, seeing how her interactions with her family members and people in her life, they change based off of us finding out more about her background and how reliable she is. Her interactions with her sister and her mother, it's a deep and enthralling show that digs really deep into mental illness, has the sci-fi kind of aspects to it and has a mysterious tone and plot that over the course of, I think these are 8 episodes and they're only like 22 minutes apiece, so this is zipping by, and you can easily just get engrossed in this and burn through this show very quickly. And you're sitting at the end with this big question mark there, and I felt so intrigued and I couldn't wait to see the next season. And I'm not sure when this next season is coming out, but I'm very, very excited to find out where this show goes, because that last episode you find out a lot and it poses new questions, but it really stokes the fire of my passion for the show and trying to find out where this show goes next. And I'm really connected with the characters in this show, and I'm really excited to see where the show goes. So bring on season 2. And then the last show I'm going to be talking about is Space Force, and this is Netflix's new big comedy show with Steve Carell from creators of The Office. John Malkovich is in it as well. By far, Steve Carell and John Malkovich are the best parts of the show. They really shine, even if the material that they have to work with, it's not always the best, but the two of them come to play, and they're so great in it. I absolutely love their performances. They really bring the humor. And there's some episodes that are really, really funny. There's an episode where they're trying to direct a chimp to be doing a bunch of work, and there's also some actors that are underutilized, but they get their moments. It's like poor Fred Willard, who just passed away, plays Steve Carell's dad, and he has some fun moments calling from New Jersey. They have the other chiefs of the different branches of the military, and like Patrick Warburton, Jane Lynch, Dietrich Bader are some of the other ones. Noah Emmerich's in this show a lot more than they are, but like they're great, but you don't see a whole lot of them. And like Ben Schwartz's character gets really annoying. And there's a lot of talent in this. Like Lisa Kudrow is pretty wasted in this, and there's a lot of subplots going on, and some of them are not as interesting as others, and some of them are just kind of dropped out of nowhere. And overall, the show I had fun with, but you can tell that it really is not as funny as it thinks it is. And I thought that the satire and the connection with the military aspects of this and the politics going on, I enjoyed that, and I think that's one of the stronger parts of this. I did feel for his connection with his family, but in the end, it's just like there's some work that needs to be done moving forward, and the show leaves on a big cliffhanger as well. And I'm interested to see where the second season goes, and I hope it's one of those things where it really finds its groove and they work on it, because just having a conversation with my girlfriend, it's like not everybody loved The Office and Parks and Rec after that first season. So I think a lot of people are jumping on this very quickly, and I'm hoping that it surges back in that second season a little bit stronger. But in general, I had some fun with it. But packed week of On the Tube, so let's talk about any of these different shows that came out this week or that I caught up on this week, and let's talk some TV. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.